Okay, well, some quick facts about the UK. Some of this you may know or may not know, so I'm going to whiz through this. The UK is made up of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. And even though you might think we're quite a small island, we've got quite a large population of over 62 million people, but we're all very friendly here. We're not the reserved English, we are friendly. As you'd expect, English is the official language. Now, what was quite surprising, even to me, that Polish is the second most used language. I suppose this is because we're part of the EU, and in 2004 a lot of the eastern countries joined us, including Poland, so there's about half a million Polish people here. Similar to Canada, we're very much a multicultural society. 5% of our population speak international languages here. And even in some countries, in some regions, including Scotland and Wales, they may have their own dialect. Even I struggle sometimes. But we'll always make you feel very warm and friendly here. We're the 6th largest economy in the world and the 6th most visited in terms of tourism, and we'll be talking to you later on during the presentation about the delights of sights to see over in the UK. What is absolutely brilliant about the UK, I suppose, as being an island, it's easily accessible across the whole of the UK and also to get to European countries. I mean, I personally, as you know, I live in Yorkshire. In an hour and a half, I can be on a plane and over to Paris. I can even, if you're in London, you can go on the Eurostar, which is about just over 2 hours. To Paris or over to Switzerland. And what's great as a student is that you get a rail card, so you can get a third discount off rail, as well as the NUS card, which gives you a lot of discounts for travelling around. We're all waiting to see if Kate and William, they have the baby. I'm sure you've been hearing about this in the news. It's global, the royal family in the UK, and I think she's due to expect the baby any time now, and she's going to be the next, well, the baby, the next heir or heiress to the throne after William, so that's quite exciting. In the UK, we have 11 regions, as you can see here, and the coastline covers beautiful 11,000 miles. I actually live in the pink area there that you can see, Northern and Yorkshire. Just to give you an idea of the scale of the UK, if I was to get up to Edinburgh, which Ross will be talking to you about later, about his experience there, I can be up there on the train in about 4 hours, which is great. I can be down to London in about 2.5 hours. I can be in the northwest in Manchester in about an hour and a half. So it just gives you an idea of sort of the scale, really, and how quick it is to get across the UK. And even over to Ireland, you can get a flight over in about an hour. The capital cities, I'm sure you'll all be familiar with London, the capital of England, very famous Big Ben, Tower London. Edinburgh, capital of Scotland, and Ross will be talking to you about the sites as a student over in Edinburgh. And then we've got fabulous castles and fabulous universities and places to see in Cardiff and Belfast. You'd be surprised to know that even though the UK is part of the EU, we're very proud and we wanted to keep our British pounds, but we do have a lot of coins which you'll get used to. One British pound is roughly valued at about 1.6 Canadian dollars. We have a variety of banks, but you may be familiar with the main banks sort of listed here, Royal Bank of Scotland, National Westminster, etc. We're very lucky as British citizens, and I think sometimes we take it for granted that the healthcare is free. At the moment, for students that are currently here or looking to come in the next 6 months, they can also gain access to the National Health Service. There are discussions at the moment with the government whether they will incur charges to students in about sort of 6 months' time, and they are considering later on that there'll be a one-off charge of £200 for the year, but that they could still change their mind about that. So if you're looking at coming in the next 6 months, the NHS is currently free.
Perfect. Thanks, Suzanne. So with that, I'll just take us through a little bit about the UK education system. So some quick facts to begin with. There are over 2.5 million students in higher education in the UK at the moment, just under about 500,000 international students in the UK and Ireland, and 87% of those are based in the UK. Canada does rank among the top 10 countries for sources of international students outside of the EU, and that's a number that's definitely growing. So over the last 6 years, the number of Canadian students in 2006 versus the one in 2012 has grown significantly, and there are just over 6,000 Canadian students in the UK at the moment. I know for me at university we did have a very strong Canadian association and group, and I remember one Canadian Thanksgiving in particular, somebody had flown back from Toronto and had brought some Timmies with them, and everybody just congregated around the Timbits. So there are plenty of Canadian students over in the UK. A little bit about the various post-secondary institutions and to give you an idea of the numbers. So England has the highest number of higher education institutions. And that's basically the British way of saying post-secondary institutions. Some of the more famous ones that you may have heard of include Oxford, Cambridge, the London School of Economics, University College London, Imperial, Manchester, Warwick, York, and Bristol. In Scotland, you have 19 higher education institutions, including Edinburgh, Glasgow, and St Andrews universities. In Wales, there are 10 that include Cardiff, Swansea, and Bangor. And then in Northern Ireland, there are 9 higher education institutions, including Belfast Queen's University. So to begin with, we'll just give you a little bit about the university system there. So as a high school student in Canada, you can apply to study an undergraduate degree at a certified UK university. Generally speaking, these degrees last 3 years in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and for 4 years in Scotland. I myself did a 3-year bachelor's degree. You will find there do exist some 4-year bachelor's degrees that include a year out. So that could either be because there's a co-op, so you'd be working in field, as they say, or it's because you're spending a year abroad. This is typically for courses that have language options. So for example, if you were to study history in German, you would spend your 3rd year living in Germany, immersing yourself in the language, and you'd come back in your 4th year to complete your degree. Most of the programs there are honors degrees, and some of them may require you to write a dissertation at the end of it. And another interesting type of program to keep in mind is a 4-year program that can be a joint bachelor and a joint master's degree. So I had quite a few friends who did these programs, and they're typically science-based. So for example, I had quite a few friends who studied biochemistry. And how it worked was they had a 4-year program that was pieced into a sort of 3+1. So it was 3 years for a bachelor's degree and then 1 year for a master's. What's important to note is once you've completed the 3 years bachelor's degree, you won't automatically be considered to go into the master's, but you must meet the qualifications in order to do so. So if you do meet the qualifications when you've done your bachelor, you can immediately transition into your master's, and then basically at the end of the 4 years, you come out with a bachelor and a master. But similarly, you can also opt out. So I had a few friends that were studying mathematics, and what they did was they were in the 4-year program, which is what they applied to. But after they had completed the 3-year bachelor degree, they decided to go and start working and start their careers rather than continue on to the master's degree. So that's a bit of a neat program, especially if you're kind of looking to compare how you will be compared to your counterparts here in Canada, where many will take 4 years to do a bachelor's degree here. In the 4-year time period, you can graduate with a master's too. That'll definitely give you a great edge and advantage when you're looking to get into the workforce. A little bit about the colleges. So you have further education colleges over in the UK. They offer undergraduate and postgraduate programs, and they're more vocational and practical in content. So that's very similar to the colleges that you would find here. Now, what's interesting to note is in the UK, with this map, we've tried to give you a rough idea of the various institutions that exist there. But in the UK, you'll primarily find there are universities, and then there are a handful of colleges. It's a little different from here in Canada, where you'd have more of an even split. So a lot of these college programs are specialists, and they're offered in areas such as the creative arts, music, agriculture, and technology, and they tend to offer smaller class sizes as well. So we just wanted to give you that quick little map to give you an idea of the various institutions that are there. For a rather small country, there are a wealth of educational opportunities in the UK for sure.